As the world works its way through the challenges of the COVID-related economic challenges, lockdowns and health issues, one thing's become clear: the rich keep getting richer. Now, they seem to do this through pandemics, through good times and through bad. And this has led a lot of people to ask, why? How? What are they doing differently? And that's what we're going to discuss in today's episode of the Michael Yardney podcast. Now, welcome to all the new listeners, because I can see from our statistics that our subscriber base keeps growing and we're getting so many downloads every month, and we're over 2.5 million downloads of the podcast already. But while I regularly focus on wealth creation through property in these podcasts, you're going to find a theme that pervades all my podcasts, and that's the importance of the psychology of success. How rich and successful people do things differently to the average people. And that's why I have these regular Rich Habits, Poor Habits shows with Tom Corley, who happens to be my co-author of the international bestseller, Rich Habits, Poor Habits. So even if you've come here to learn about property, success or money, at the end of today's show, you're going to understand some new research that Tom's uncovered, and I hope this is going to help you in your future endeavours. So welcome to today's show.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's authority in wealth creation through property, who has been voted one of Australia's top 50 most influential thought leaders.
A number of years ago, I came across an American author on Twitter. He was talking about the difference between the rich and the poor. So I subscribed to his blog and I was really impressed with his work. So I asked him, can I please republish some of your articles on my blog on Property Update? Well, that author was Tom Corley, and he spent 5 years studying the habits of the rich millionaires, and he'd already written a couple of great books on that topic. Tom became my friend. He joined us at Wealth Retreat in a number of years, came out with his family a few years in a row. Pam and I became close to his family. And Tom and I co-authored the international bestseller, Rich Habits, Poor Habits. And over the years, we've created hundreds of videos and podcasts on the topic of the habits of success in the rich people. So it's again my pleasure to chat with you. Hello, Tom.
Hey, Michael. How are you there, my friend?
It's an interesting journey we've had, starting with your Twitter feed. Isn't it interesting what you can sometimes do with social media?
You're right. I remember you tweeted back to me, because I was tweeting out all the time, every day. That's what you have to do when you're trying to promote your book, right? So I was doing, all the social media. And you responded on one of the articles I'd written. And then next thing you know, we're doing wasn't Zoom back then. It was something else.
Skype, I think.
Skype. We did Skype, right? And we started Skyping. We became friendly. I came to speak to your group in the Wealth Retreat in 2016, then 17, then 18, and then 19. I had my whole family there. It was awesome. And I even had my son, Brendan, come up and share, if you remember, his story on how he succeeded where he worked at Moody's. I thought it was really valuable. Everybody, hearing it from the horse's mouth, how some of these rich habits actually work in the real world.
Definitely. Well, it's been now, I guess, 5 years since the first edition of our top-selling book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits, was released. And you and I know are very proud of it because it's been published in a number of international languages: Chinese, Vietnamese, Malaysian, Polish. But I haven't actually had a chance to personally say to you, thank you and congratulations for collaborating with me on the second edition that just came out.
This is such a powerful edition because you and I, we never stop. We're constantly learning and trying to update our research. And I've been working on for 2 years the 4 Paths to Wealth, which we incorporated into the new book. It's part of my Wealth Academy. That it's an online course that I'm going to be rolling out soon. And I think it's just so much value, in the book. I really think people are going to love it.
Well, I want to go through those 4 paths to wealth in just a moment. But before we do, I guess it's been 5 years since the first edition of the book, and we've had some good times. We've had some bad times. We've experienced a pandemic, recessions, a boom. But through all this, Tom, the rich just keep getting richer. And the gap between the rich and the average Australian and the average American just keeps widening. Why do you think that is so?
I think wealthy people, because they are so tuned into opportunities, their radar is so focused on looking for opportunities that are going to help them grow and improve and become more successful. I think when something like 2008, 2009 recession hit, or when, we had this pandemic hit, there were so many that were looking for opportunities. And just look at, we're speaking on Zoom now, right? So Zoom has become a great vehicle for people to communicate. I think it accelerated the reality that was maybe 10 years down the road, where people were going to be working remotely and meeting remotely. And I think it just accelerated that. And one of the interesting things is this Zoom has, especially for people that are selling anything to other individuals or groups or organizations, it actually is a big benefit, because you can, in the past, you would have to travel a lot of cases, and that takes time. Now you could, my son, Brendan, he told me all he did was he tripled his number of meetings because he had more time. And he actually doubled his income in 2020 when everybody was struggling. Not everybody, but when most people were struggling, he doubled his income. And I've heard that from some of my clients who have actually increased their income because they just happened to be in, a certain industry like the construction industry. And, they were just, people were interested in getting things done to their home because guess what? They were staying in their homes.
Now, Tom, your initial book, Rich Habits, and your Rich Habits study, and then our book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits, was based on a 5-year interview study program, research program you did of the daily activities, the habits, the traits of 233 wealthy individuals, people who'd done well. But I know you've done some subsequent research. You've dug deeper and you've included that in the updated edition of Rich Habits, Poor Habits, which is available at richhabitspoorhabits.com. You can get a physical book online, or you can get the Kindle or Mobi version, or whichever version as well. So, Tom, what did you find? What were the ways the wealthy became wealthy? What was their secrets?
Yeah, this is the 4 paths to wealth is so powerful. I even created a quiz, which I know I shared with you. The idea is, Michael, that we all have different personalities, and there are multiple ways that you can become wealthy. The trick I learned from my research is really taking your personality profile and seeking out the path to wealth that's suitable given your personality profile. Like, for example, when I took the quiz, I've been an entrepreneur for years, and I'm very entrepreneurial, as are you. When I took the quiz, I got a score of 93% on the entrepreneur quiz. And I got a score of 24% on the saver investor quiz, right? I knew I wasn't a saver investor. When I was raised in a family, we were poor, we didn't have any money, so we spent it all. I was never taught to save money, not by my father, not by my mother, not by anybody in my family. So we never got that lesson. And it took me years to really start to save. I was behind the 8 ball. So I think what this 4 paths to wealth does, and the quiz, is it tells you this is the path that's right for you. And if you follow this path, if you pursue wealth this way, you're going to increase the likelihood that you're going to become wealthy probably tenfold.
In other words, there's more than one way to get rich, and that's good news. But the answer is you've got to follow your flow. You shouldn't do what's hard. You should do what comes easily, because the path isn't easy, is it?
No, it's not. And so I got the 3rd highest score I got was the big company climber score. That was like 70%. I spent 10 years, Michael, climbing the corporate ladder. And when I got to, the very top, like not the very top, but close, where my competition was the CEO, the CFO, and those kind of people, what I found out is the politics at that level is just almost unbearable. I mean, there are people that are just cutting the back of your heels so that, you could trip and fall down the ladder that you're climbing. and I got sick of it. And so for me, my personality wasn't really suited to be, able to overcome the culture, the politics of the corporate culture. So I wasted 10 years of my life.
Well, let's go through the 4 different paths. And the first one's the saver investor, which you suggested you're not. And to be blunt, I'm not either. And I think you found that about 22% of the millionaires in your study chose that path. So it was a little bit disproportionate. It wasn't a quarter of them, was it?
No. And what I liked about the path, once I really understood it, was you don't even need a college education. You don't need any unique skill sets. You don't need, to have, superior knowledge to other people. Basically all you need is a job, a middle-class job, and to create a standard of living that allows you to save 20% of your income. And in my saver investor path, millionaires, the ones that pursued that, most of them were teachers. They were tradesmen, or they were just making an average middle-class income, but they saved 20% of their income consistently and invested it. That's the key. They invested it after they saved it.
I think one of the other things we should remind people is that most millionaires weren't born that way. Yes, some people had rich parents, but in America, where you live, in Australia, where I live, in the sort of countries where a lot of people are watching this and listening to this, there is the opportunity for people just from ordinary backgrounds to become wealthy, to become rich. And you don't have to do it by robbing, raping, or pillaging either, do you?
No, this isn't a zero-sum game. This is, when you make money, you actually, your circle, your inner circle, people that you deal with on a regular basis, they make more money. So it's actually adds value to the lives of everyone that's in your circle. So it's really important that you understand that you're not taking a slice of pizza away from somebody else. You're actually making the pizza pie bigger.
I think that's important because a lot of people are a little bit concerned about that. So in your group, the saver investors, they made their first million in their mid to late 30s, and then they kept accumulating it because they developed rich habits. They spent less than they earned. They saved a significant amount of their income. But it's that whole concept we keep talking about, Tom, delayed gratification. Do the hard things now and your life will be easier later.
Yeah, and that's the hard part, Michael, because we live in a society of instant gratification. We're a consumerist society, particularly in the States. And I know Australia is very similar. When I describe Australia to people, I said, it's just a cleaner version of the United States, really. And it's the truth. People have the same entrepreneurial fire. They have the same desire to pursue wealth as we do in the States. So, I think that it's hard to in this day and age to say, I'm going to not watch, 2 or 3 hours of Netflix. Instead, I'm going to read 2 or 3 hours on something that's going to help me become more knowledgeable, or I'm going to practice some set of skills. I'll tell you this. I just had a meeting with a client who's obsessed with my rich habits, and they're very wealthy. They weren't when they started with me, but they are very wealthy now, probably to the tune of $5 or $6 million. They're brothers, and they were early adopters of my rich habits. Well, they asked me to meet with them. I had no idea what we were meeting with, and they said, if we decide 5 years from now, if we decide that because we have so much money that we're going to sell our business, which we've been talking about, what do? We have no other skills. So I said, your plan should be 5 years from now, sell your business. And during this next 5 years, devote an hour or two a day to developing new skills. I said, maybe you might, because they're going to be in their early 50s, Michael, when that 5 years comes. I said, you could maybe become a plumber, do something that you like. So if I like working with my hands, I like being active. So find something that you experiment with, something you think you like, and maybe you'll become a plumber. Maybe learn about how to refurbish a house or build a deck, or develop those kind of skills, electrical skills, electrical engineer. You can do anything. You could have a second career, and you're not going to make as much money, but you don't need to.
That's right, because they've got the nest egg there now.
The point I'm making is that that's going to require that they devote a certain amount of time every day, which means they're not going to be watching as much TV. They're not going to be doing some other, recreational things. So I could see like immediately in their eyes that they were like, oh, this is a little bit of work.
Now, I see that the next path after the Saver Investors, one that you talk about a bit, is the Dreamer path. And that's probably one of the hardest ways, isn't it, Tom?
It is the hardest way. It's also the most financially rewarding and the shortest path to wealth if you succeed. Not everybody who pursues as an entrepreneur succeeds. But when you pursue a dream, Michael, it forces you to grow in the sense that you have to learn on the fly what to do and what not to do. Because if you don't figure out what not to do, it costs you time and money. And most entrepreneurs, when they're starting out, they don't have much of either of that, the time or money. So, the entrepreneur path is difficult, obstacles, mistakes. There's people in front of you, competition that you've got to overcome. So there's a lot of work involved in it, a lot of hours. It's grueling. But if you are able to succeed, in my study, the entrepreneurs in my study, they took 12 years for them to accumulate an average of $7.4 million, far more than any other path.
So I use the word dreamer, but we're really talking about the entrepreneurs, people who are providing services or goods, running businesses and helping other people.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, let's face it, an entrepreneur is a dreamer because they are pursuing some dream that they're passionate about or that they have been thinking about for a long time. So in a real sense, they're dreamers. That's why I call it the dreamer entrepreneur path.
Sure. And as you already said, you're an entrepreneur. I am. Most people don't realize how much work it takes, how many hours it does. I know you've got a full-time job. I have also. And in between that, we do our studying, our learning, our writing, our podcasts, our blogs. It's not easy, is it?
No, it's very difficult. But guess what? There is a process that makes it so much easier. And that all it is waking up 3 hours before you actually start your workday. And then you have that 3 hours of time to devote to your dream. Now, this is important. Most dreamers, let's face it, we have obligations. We have maybe a house. We might even have kids. We have all of these responsibilities that we can't shirk. There's no getting around them. Well, if you wake up early enough, you can pursue your dream while maintaining your full-time job. That's how I wrote Rich Habits. That's how I did all my research. I did it at between 4:30 in the morning and 7 in the morning. That was the only time I had. And it's become a habit. And since I started that, I guess back in 2004, I had no choice in order to do my research. We've written a book together. I have written 5 books really. I also created the Wealth Academy online course. And, I've written probably 400 or 500 articles between my blog and the media. And I don't know how many interviews I've done. Many of them I've done at night, like this is nighttime for me, where I'm doing it at night. Well, that was fine. I didn't care. I did speaking engagements. I must have done 150 speaking engagements, and most of them took place after 6 p.m.
And in general, it takes a while for all the fruits of your labor to come to fruition and you get some money. So entrepreneurs often have to count their pennies, be careful in the early days.
Yeah, that's right. I remember when I started the financial planning back in 2011. It's now 2021. That's 10 years. Do you know, only the last 2 years have I been seeing a real significant return on my investment. So it takes time, but once those revenue streams start to kick in, they kind of gain momentum and they grow on their own. And I'm seeing that with the financial planning. I'm seeing it with my books. They're consistently, I'm selling, even without trying, I'm selling, 25 to 55,000 books a year. We had a huge year last year, 2020, with our book in China and also Poland.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic. So one path is the saver investor path. The next is the entrepreneur or the dreamer path. But having read our book together and learned your research, the company climber path, that was the biggest of the groups, wasn't it? Tell us about them.
Yeah, I had a lot of big company climbers in my rich habits study in the 233 millionaires. Now, what's interesting about the big company climbers is if you have what it takes to climb the corporate ladder, I didn't because I couldn't stand corporate politics. But if you're not me and you're somebody else, I have a number of people in my study and a number of clients. On average, they're worth over $4 million. And most of their wealth doesn't come from their salary. In fact, 90% of their wealth comes from either stock compensation or their share of the profits of whatever big company that their partners or shareholders in. So the base pay that they get, even including their bonus, only amounts to 10% of their wealth.
I bet they've got to work long hours too, just like the entrepreneurs. There's no shortcuts.
Yeah, they do. And they also, on top of that, they have to travel a lot. They do a lot of plane travel, and
well, when you could in the old days.
Yeah, right. So they're constantly on the go. And I have one of the individuals in my study, is a big wig at a pharmaceutical company, and he has a break between 6:30 and 8 o'clock at night. And then from 8 o'clock to around 10:30, he's on phone calls and emails and Zoom calls and whatever with people all over the world. So it's a long, grueling work day. But he's going to retire at he's close to retiring at age 56, right?
Okay, so of the 4 paths, there's one left, and that's what you call the virtuosos. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into this category. It was my second highest score. These are individuals who have a unique either skill set or knowledge base. Now, think of skill set. You've got a lot of Australians competing in the Olympics right now. Well, they're virtuosos, right? And the ones that succeed and get the medals, they can make a ton of money, down the road with promotions and all that sort of stuff. Well, these virtuosos, they're paid a premium for their time. They're the ones who everybody seeks out, and the Roger Federers, the Tiger Woods of the world, they even if they're not golfing, they're paid money to just show up somewhere. So their time is much more valuable than the non-virtuosos. And if they're knowledge-based, these are people, typically the knowledge-based virtuosos, they have to go to extensive schooling. They have to get, in some cases, their PhDs, and they're constantly growing their knowledge base. Elon Musk is probably an exception to this. He's a knowledge-based virtuoso, but he's self-learned. He did all his PhD work in his basement, reading books and trying to understand how to rockets could fly. And so, you don't have to go to school, but you do have to devote the time to becoming a knowledge-based expert. And the skill-based experts require regular practice, redundant practice, and analytical practice, which requires feedback, a coach or somebody, a mentor, watching over you and giving you feedback.
So clearly there's more than one way to become wealthy, but there are a couple of themes that I've noticed in our discussion today. One is it does take time. The other is you actually have to make some sacrifices early, whether they're financial, educational, just delaying gratification. But that comes through over and over again. And you need resilience, don't you? Because you're going to have troubles. You're going to run into challenges. There are going to be hurdles.
Yeah, you're going to fall down. You're going to make mistakes, and no matter what path you're following, the thing that keeps you on that path is a clear vision of where you want to be, say 10, 15, 20 years from now. I think that's the most important thing. That's your guiding light. That guiding light, that clear vision of who. Like for me, my clear vision is to become J.C. Jobs, one of the characters in my book. So I have such a clear vision of J.C. Jobs that I already think of myself as J.C. Jobs just without the money. He sold 500 million books and he's had, hundreds of millions of dollars. Well, I think of myself as him without the money. But one day the money follows. As long as you stay on the path, I believe it will follow. And ultimately, you'll be the beneficiary of all of this, this wealth one day. But you just got to stay on that path and overcome all of these obstacles and people that stand in your way, people that get in your way all the time. I have so many people that stand in my way and try and stop me from doing whatever I'm doing. And I just, I do what Jack Canfield said. It's a great advice. He said, whenever you get a no from somebody or you get turned down, you say in your mind, you say next, right? That's a great way of moving on, because you say, okay, next, I'm going to move on to the next person.
Sure. I think another theme that came through from our discussion is that these multimillionaires, they plan, they know where they're heading, they've got a plan, but everyone's got a dream. A plan's very different to a dream, isn't it? And then they get a team around them, and then they just do what they've got to do to get there.
Yeah. So the idea of having a clear vision isn't just to have this pie in the sky clear vision. It's actually to identify all of the dreams that make up the life that you want, right? So, if I wanted to be a successful author, I had to sell a lot of books. So in order to sell a lot of books, which was a dream, I can't just dream that. I have to do something. Well, I created goals, and my goals were, I'm going to write a lot of articles that I think are going to add value to the lives of others. I'm going to promote those articles to the media. So I focused on media to get my word out, and I was successful. I mean, I've had more media exposure than I think Tony Robbins, and I think it's going to pay off one day.
It will. And I think another theme that came through is that you've got to love what you do. You've got to be happy with what you do, because that's going to get you through those hassles, those challenges. It will allow you to get up one more time. It will make sure that the naysayers and the negative Nellies don't get to you.
Yeah, and I think the important lesson here is when you pursue a dream, it's like going down a rabbit hole. You never know where it's going to lead. Well, when I was trying to pursue my dream of understanding why some people are wealthy and others are poor, I was just trying to get to some truth about it. It took me down a rabbit hole, and I started writing books. Next thing I know, I'm doing speaking engagements. Next thing I know, I'm traveling to Australia. And so it takes you down these rabbit holes, and they lead to other opportunities where you can, build your brand and make more money. So I think it's important to pursue a dream, not because, you want to fulfill that dream, but that's a reason. But the other thing is it's like a centipede. A dream is a centipede because it's spokes on a wheel. It's going to lead you in all sorts of different directions into other rabbit holes. And your subconscious is going to be guiding you to pursue those rabbit holes because they're going to help you realize your dream.
Well, I think all this started with a question you asked in your mind. Why? Why are the rich getting richer? What is the secret? What do they do different? You did your study, you wrote your books, and together we wrote Rich Habits, Poor Habits, and now there's the second edition of Rich Habits, Poor Habits with all the original information, because that's timeless, but a whole lot of new information that we've added to the book, including your 4 Paths to Wealth study, plus other information for these times. And I think the beauty of these concepts are they will remain timeless. And it's very clearly, Tom, they're working in different countries in the world, in developed countries, in developing countries, in Europe, in America, in Asia, in Australia. The market has shown it. So again, if the people watching this or listening to this are interested, go to richhabitspoorhabits.com and you can either get a physical book or an online version. Tom, thank you so much for sharing this. I know there's lots more, and you put that in the books, you put it in your blogs. If people want to get regular daily commentary and you're fastidious with that, it comes out every day, go to richhabits.net, and I'll leave a link in the show notes to get to subscribe to Tom's blog. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon to have our regular Rich Habits chat.
Right. It's always enjoyable, isn't it? We always love talking to each other.
We love it. It's interesting. We've got a common love of this, which means that it's nice to share it with somebody. But maybe we should finish off with that. As I started to say before, the wealthy people build a team of others around them. It's on your own. You can probably run a bit faster, but together you can run a lot further, can't you?
Oh, my gosh. Having apostles for your cause, that's a difference maker. That's a game changer. And it's hard to find them. We found each other, and we've helped each other. Our books are selling like crazy in China and in Poland. That could have never happened if we didn't team up, right?
Unbelievable, it is. Okay, look forward to catching up with you again real soon. Thank you, Tom.
Come here, Michael.
Well, I hope you enjoyed my chat with Tom, and now you've got a better understanding of the 4 main paths that people use to become wealthy. Hopefully you're also going to understand a bit about where you fit in there. But if you want to understand more, if you want to learn how to use these better, please get a copy of our book, Rich Habits, Poor Habits. You can get it online through Kindle or on your iPad or a hard copy, the real sort of book. And this is available all over the world. So just go to richhabitspoorhabits.com and get your copy of the new, updated 2nd edition of Rich Habits, Poor Habits. And by the way, if you did get some benefit, help me in my quest to make more people successful, more people financially fluent, by telling somebody about the Michael Yardney podcast. Of course, you can tell the world by leaving a review. You can leave it on Spotify or iTunes or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to this. Now, if you did get some benefit from it, I've also got another way of helping you. I'd like to say thank you by giving you a gift of a bundle of books and reports, ebooks and reports. Just go to podcastbonus.com.au. There'll be a link in the show notes, and you can get a bundle of my ebooks and reports. Now, in between these shows, you can catch me on social media, or why not become part of my private Facebook group where every day I leave a chart, a topic, a hint, something about property that you won't get elsewhere. Just go to Facebook and look for the Property Update Facebook group. I'll be back again real soon. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favorite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?